Well, we have ourselves another project we get to work on. So this is a Trackless MT5 this is the tractor that I took the motor out of and turboed it. This is the one with the Cummins in it. So this is that tractor that we use to blow snow. But anyway, there is the little Cummins in there that I turboed. So what we got to do with it is the PTO on this thing, the clutch itself is spraying oil all over the hydraulic oil out of it. So I need to pull the fuel tank, the hydraulic tank, and then I believe the PTO gearbox, and then I can get to the clutch and take the clutch apart. The problem is with this clutch is I don't know what it is. Talked to MT says they only use that clutch in these for 2 years and they had nothing but problems with them. The problems never were consistent. They always did different things. I guess that went wrong with it, and then they went back to a twin disc, basically a hand clutch with they just put a hydraulic cylinder on it. This thing is all internally. So anyways, we are going to pull this thing apart and see if we can fix it. If not, we will put a different clutch on it and get it back in service, because right now I can't run it. Well, you can run it, but you just keep dumping oil in it. As you can see, it's just sitting here leaking out on the ground. Got oil laying on the floor. So let's get to tearing this thing apart. Well, I got that off. I'm going to drain fuel out of it. And I got to drain the oil out of it so I can get the fuel tank. The fuel tank's on ball, the fuel line's off of it. So I'll get that out of there and then we'll go from there and see if we can get this thing off. So let me get some stuff to drain some stuff. Well, alright. So I got the fuel tank off so I can get in here. I don't really need to take the oil tank off, so I'm not going to. Anyways, I think I already said that. Anyways, before I go tearing things apart, I'm thinking I ought to set the fuel tank lamp, set it right down here, fire this thing up and let it sit here and run and see exactly I guess. Start tearing it apart. It's a couple days later. So, had to get a few things. Had to go down to the store to get some fine china. Most of you guys know what that is. You know, I just pan on over here. You know, right there. You know, the fine china store? That's where we went to go get that. Meanwhile, I really hate these things. I don't like them, but I don't have no way of picking this thing out of here, so I guess I need to get that so I can get it out of here. But I really hate those things. Matter of fact, I believe that's the first one that this family has ever owned. Ever owned one of those. So, anyways, I'm gonna hook all these hoses and get it ready to get split in half. So unhook the hoses. Oh, the electrical is gonna be fun, it looks like. Hoses, electrical. Yeah, we're gonna be here for a minute trying to get these. The hose is not a big deal, but the electrical is gonna be. Disconnect the cylinder and drive lines, 2 drive lines, and then unbolt the 6 bolts, and that thing should come apart. Well, 7 bolts, sorry, there's one right there, but there's 3 big bolts on each side. Put some blocks under the engine side and put that jack over there on the cab side, and hopefully this thing will roll out of there. Just roll it straight forward and get in there and pick that thing out of there with that fine thing. It'll probably never roll. But anyways, let's get it apart. Well, I finally got everything. All the hoses, all the electrical, all of the everything. Drive lines are off. Everything's off. The only thing left is 6 bolts. I pulled this bolt up and the bracket's broke. So that's gonna have to get welded back on. Anyways, pull these 6 bolts up and we'll split this thing in half. Well, I think I overestimated that thing. I thought it was going to be heavier on this end, but it's actually heavier on the back end. I about knocked up this fucker. I guess I better put a jack into the back. Alrighty. Well, I guess see if it's going to roll forward now. leaking oil and everything. Do that. That'll stop the oil leak. Leaking water too. Well, that should come out fairly easy now. A couple hydraulic closes on that clutch and a ring of bolts, and that thing should slide out of there. I might pull that thing out of my way, get that out of here, so it's easy to get work around. And then we'll get that fabulous thing there and say a few choice words at it. But anyways, note to self, it's heavier on that end than it is on this end. But I assumed it was going to be heavier on this end, but that engine's pretty dead center. I figure there's more weight up here than there is back there, but there's not. So if anybody's doing this, put a jack on the back. Cap was, obviously it's heavier in the back. And I just stuck it on that jack on that bearing block, floor jack, and rolled it out. It rolled out actually fairly easy. I just turned the tire instead of trying to push it, and it rolled right out of there. So let me get a couple more hoses off and we'll pull this clutch and gearbox out of here. Well, I guess I split the case in half to get to the bolts that hold this on here. But there's no bolts there. So that was a waste of time. So, I guess that bolt right there I'm guessing that bolt right there, and then the bolts must go back into it this way and hold this on, which is weird because the bolt is incensed in this, so that's gonna make things simple, interesting. This bolt wasn't very tight. Anyway, there's a lot of sludge and stuff in the bottom of that thing, so I guess it never wasn't a big deal. So I can replace the seals in it. Anyways, the bearings look good. Get the sludge out of it. Keep on going here. So I'm gonna get the, well, let's see. I'm gonna do something here. I guess what I should do is unbolt that down there, get those bolts. I'd probably just unbolt them two bolts, leave the mount on the frame, and unbolt that and see if we can just slide that whole mess out of there. So let's see what we got. Well, I got all the bolts out of the flywheels or bell housing, so let's put all the rest of this out. Well, we got it off finally. So I guess if you have an MT, trackless MT with that type of clutch in it, and this gearbox had the rear PTO on it, but I imagine even if it didn't have the rear PTO, it'd probably come out the same. You have to take it completely off the engine, undo the 4 bolts that hold the, or 4 nuts that hold the PTO onto the bell housing plate, and then slide the plate off, and then slide the PTO off over the top of them rods. And that's how you get one of those out. The twin disc clutch, it sounds like you just unbolt the bolts go in from the, you know, from the front there. You can just unbolt the whole thing and just bring it right back off. So anyways, I don't know if these bolts loosened up on me or these nuts loosened up on me, because the oil was leaking right through here and there's no seal. The only seal there is right here, and that keeps the oil from the clutch from going into the gearbox. And then there's another seal on the other side of that that keeps the oil in the gearbox from going this way. So basically I don't know, I pulled that bolt. Hopefully I didn't screw anything up, but I pulled thinking these 2 bolts, there's a bolt here and a bolt down here. This is upside down right now, but you got a bolt here and a bolt here. I pulled these off thinking to just pull this off and there's bolts in there, but if you pull these off, this thing comes apart. So basically these rods are actually holding this whole thing together too. So I think these are just temporarily there to keep it from I don't know, separating when they're not in, when it's like. Well, it's a little bit of an update on the MT here. So it's been a few days since the last part anyways. So been waiting on seals for the gearbox. I just got done making a gasket for that because nobody's gonna have that gasket. Not even the company that built the machine. I don't think there's anything wrong with the clutch. It was all leaking through the gasket, so if I replace the gasket, it should stop leaking. I'm replacing the seals in the gearbox just because I tore the gearbox apart thinking I had to get that off of that. So, which didn't have to happen. Anyways, meanwhile, I ordered a brand new hydraulic valve for it. And I just got done installing that. There's the old one. Goofy MT doesn't want you to have power down on these tractors. I don't know why. It's annoying. So it has power down now. This valve right here, which is the up and down cylinders, all it has is a float. So if you push down on it just a little bit, it goes down into float. There's no feather in it. So I gotta hook up the hose. The hoses, and that's another thing that don't make any sense. The hoses are run. The factory hoses are ran out there to it. So I don't know if somebody along the line screwed up or the valve got screwed up or what, but it didn't have, all it had was float down. It did not have power down. So it's got power down, brand new valve. Maybe that one won't leak oil all over the place. If anybody owns an MT that doesn't leak oil, I'd like to see it, because usually it leaks oil in this area all the time. We got that, what is that, an MT6. It's covered in oil right here. I don't know why they can't figure out how to not make it leak oil. So anyways, I'm gonna put this thing back together, put new seals in this, put the gearbox back together, put the clutch back on the gearbox, or the clutch and the gearbox back on the flywheel or the bell housing adapter plate, slide the whole mess back in here and bolt this thing back together so I can get done dealing with this thing, because it's been way too long sitting here apart. So I had to go blow snow, and that's why this thing got stopped, why I haven't been working on it. But you guys won't see that because it's all going to be one video. So anyways, I'm going to get back to putting this thing together. Well, let's see if we can get that PTO back up in there. Got to get that lovely thing over there to pick that thing up and set it in there. It's probably fine for doing stuff like this. Nice, not really heavy. Just picks it right up, slides it in there. But you still have to struggle with them. They're a pain in the butt. I hate them. Anyway. I guess I probably should have swept the floor, but why would we do that? Really? There's no point in doing that. It's just going to get dirty again, right? Right. Yeah, there you go. All right, there. Oh, great. Well, after putting it on there, apparently I have 3 stripped out bolts. So I got this one stripped out, this one stripped out, and that one stripped out. So I was thinking I'll just, you know, not even worry about it. Forget that they're even stripped out. But I guess I will fix it. So I think I'm gonna try to tap this out to a 1/2" bolt instead of this metric bolt. Ideally you'd put a helicoil in it, but I don't have a helicoil in that type thread. That size thread anyway. So I guess back off with the gear this mess. See if we can tap those 2 bolts or 3 bolt holes out. So, back off, I guess. Well, it turns out I did have some helicoil, so I helicoiled 4 holes actually instead of instead of 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4 holes have been helicoiled. Hopefully I don't have any more problems. Anyways, so now I guess we can put that thing back on there. Alrighty, it's all bolted back in. So now it's time to put the tractor back together. Move all this stuff to get out of the way. Clean up the mess here a little bit and bring the cab back to the motor. Jack the back of the engine out because it's, you know, it's up. This side's, you know, it's a little higher than that side. So anyway, lift this up, pull it back together, pull the thing back together, be done with it. Over it. All right, let's start. Well, I got it back together. So, finishing up a few things. Gonna clamp that muffler down on this. Got the snowblower back on it. We got the depth wheels attached. So I just gotta hook the drive line back up and clamp that down, and I gotta move these over. Our shovel and bar holder, I gotta move them over. I hit the muffler now, so. But other than that, it's done. So that was an interesting thing to put together, I guess. It really wasn't that hard, I guess, but it just took forever waiting on parts, seals basically. So anyways, on that clutch, the bleeder screw on the PTO gearbox side is the clutch brake bleeder screw, and I'm guessing, I don't know because I don't have any books on it, but the one closest to the engine, up against the engine bell housing, is for the bleeder screw to engage it. So if your clutch is, when you shut the PTO off and your PTO is still spinning, it's probably because there's air in that clutch brake. So you could reach in there and bleed the air off of it and it'll stop. But actually this thing, when we first got it, I remember with it cold, the PTO never stopped on it until it warmed up. Now it's stopped, it's off. So I got air out of that bleeder screws. So just for you guys to know on this particular clutch on this thing. So that's the end of the video on this thing. We're gonna finish this up here and I'm gonna load it up on a trailer and haul it back to where the snow is. Catch you on the next one.